So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans, the CEOs of our state-owned companies, members of the boards, Deputy Minister, Deputy Minister Magwanisha is the one running our youth development programs. So I'm deployed today to be his spokesperson, and he'll answer all the questions after I speak. In January 2011, President Zuma said, "We must make the decisive shift towards meaningful economic transformation and set in motion a very deliberate program that will ensure that the benefits of our political liberation are shared amongst all our people. Our people have struggled selflessly for freedom from oppression. We cannot fail them when it comes to the struggle for the liberation. We cannot fail them when it comes to the struggle for the elimination of poverty. This will include the deepening of empowerment of Black South Africans in general. We have to live the promise of the Freedom Charter, which states, amongst others, that all our people will share in the country's wealth. Political emancipation without economic transformation is meaningless," quote unquote. Fundamental and radical economic transformation was accordingly to underpin the second phase of the transition towards a national democratic society by ensuring, amongst others, that wealth redistribution took on a new impetus. The public sector has played an important role in this regard and would thus be expected to play an even greater role in pursuit of this decisive shift towards meaningful economic transformation that both fulfilled the promise of the Freedom Charter and created the conditions for inclusive growth and shared wealth. This, of course, does not absolve the private sector from their own obligations. But at the same time, we accept the leadership role of the public sector within the context of building a developmental state that does not only create conditions for a fallacious equal opportunities for all, but that directly intervenes in the economy in favor of those hitherto marginalized and excluded, to create social inclusion through its policies and programs of growth and development, redistribution, and reconstruction. One of the sectors that have remained economically marginalized and hence socially excluded over the years has been the youth. Their plight is reflected in stubborn unemployment that refuses to yield to any intervention, lack of skills, and access to economic empowerment opportunities. Quite clearly, whilst the view may be correct that youth unemployment is the outcome of aggregate unemployment in the economy, but we cannot hold the mechanical view that increasing aggregate employment in the economy would of necessity and automatically resolve youth unemployment. As well as creating aggregate employment, specific youth-targeted interventions are required to get the youth off the streets and into gainful economic activity and restore their hope in this democracy. At the same time, recognizing that there are stubborn structural factors causing youth unemployment means that we cannot simply say that the youth, by merely giving them a voucher to go look for a job, they will in turn find one. The fact is that they will find a job if the economy was creating one. Accordingly, the National Youth Employment Accord is the better and more comprehensive and integrated approach to addressing youth unemployment. And yet more effort is required of all, particularly the state through state-owned companies, to create the opportunities for youth to get employed and address their economic plight. This we can say without any fear of contradiction, that the biggest challenge facing the youth of our country today is that of economic participation, which expresses itself in the form of the interrelated challenge of lack of jobs, lack of requisite skills and employment opportunities, so that they can form youth-owned cooperatives and SMMEs to create the jobs for themselves and for fellow young people. We recognize that the access to capital and cost of capital remains a serious inhibitor to black people, and particularly the youth, to grow their businesses. The finance industry should scrutinize its role in growing our economy. It was directly to resolve this challenge that government had established Umsobomvu Youth Fund and subsequently the National Youth Development Agency. The mistake we made was in regarding the fund as the panacea to all the funding challenges of young people, leaving it on its own to fend against difficult circumstances, to try resolve youth economic aspirations that it could not fulfill on its own. At the same time, for some time, the National Youth Development Agency veered off the rails and lost focus, and we should applaud the renewal of its focus under the new board. As a measure of their own contribution, the state-owned companies are poised to be catalysts of economic development and economic transformation through their spending and contribution in changing the social development dimension of the South African economy. Targeted procurement through set-asides will make a significant difference to our economy and will contribute to the eradication of poverty, unemployment, and social inequality. Ladies and gentlemen, over the next 5 years, Eskom will be spending around 700 billion rand on both their capital expenditure as well as their operational expenditure. Black youth-owned companies accounted for 1%, that is 1.2 billion rand, of the total measurable procurement spend for the financial year 2012. In real terms, Eskom procured goods and services from 457 black youth-owned businesses in the financial year. Eskom's supplier development plan has identified 42 priority areas for supplier development, localization, and transformation. But perhaps before I move further, I must say that this 1% was totally unsatisfactory, and I made that point as clear to the board of Eskom and their executive. Moving forward, the company has set itself the target of spending over 24 billion rand a year on black youth-owned businesses by 2017. Thus far, the company has spent over 10.5 billion rand of spend for youth-owned businesses in a range of industries, including the National Electrification Project, vegetation management, coal mining, metering, and wooden pole production. These businesses will create over 44,700 skilled jobs, expanding our national technical skills base. Eskom is developing skills development programs to provide training for these skills requirements so that young people are prepared to trade in this area and supported to be successful. Eskom has identified the development of a new integrated demand management industry as an opportunity to implement a flagship youth development program involving such areas as solar water heating, heat pumps, demand reduction, and industrial process optimization and maintenance. Energy efficiency is a relatively new and evolving technology. It will create an opportunity for the social mobilization of our youth and allow for youth participation at different levels of the value chain, from the most cutting-edge, technologically advanced research and design engineering to installation and maintenance. Multiple smaller demand management projects in a new evolving industry lend themselves to ease of entry for new players, and the support from government will remove natural barriers. The program is aligned and will give additional momentum to government's commitment to shifting from the energy intensive to building the green economy, reducing carbon emissions. Eskom is using the Energy Auditors Training Program to pilot the methodology. Thus far, 50 young people have been trained as energy auditors. Systematically to develop the industry, Eskom has consequently established an alternative energy school at its Academy of Learning, which will initially train 200 energy auditors and 400 alternative water technology heater installers. These programs have been accredited by the relevant SETA. The Academy is investigating additional green skills programs. This intervention is not only correcting market failures of minimal skills development by the private sector, but it is already designing the future and managing the transition between energy intensity and the green economy. In the last financial year, Eskom invested more than 1.9 billion rand in skills development and has established an academy of learning offering courses to 6,000 young people. Eskom has also heeded the call of building strategic partnerships with further education and training colleges by donating equipment to FET colleges that focus on engineering and has provided 2,918 bursaries. The company's long-term strategy is to ensure that by 2015, it provides over 10,000 apprenticeship opportunities per annum. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last 15 months, I had announced that Transnet would be spending 300 billion rand on its capital expansion and a further 325 billion rand on its operational requirements over the next 7 years. Transnet has developed a competitive supplier development program which identifies areas where the company has leverage to drive the supplier development, localization, and economic transformation process. Transnet has analyzed each key operational spend area and developed specific focus areas for different aspects of transformation, including Black women and youth-owned businesses. These opportunities are focused on professional services, health, safety, and sanitation, as well as the production and maintenance of equipment. Transnet has targeted over 18 billion rand of this expenditure for youth-owned businesses, particularly those in the townships and rural areas, to indirectly stimulate the rural economies. The company will be using a combination of set-asides and procurement scoring methodologies to ensure an appropriately targeted procurement process. Transnet recognizes that identifying areas of procurement is the starting point for a comprehensive developmental process. We are soon to launch the Transnet Enterprise Development Hub that will provide a one-stop shop of support services ranging from skills development opportunities to incubation facilities. Transnet is entering into a range of partnerships with funding agencies that will specifically target providing funding and support services to Black youth and women-owned companies once these companies secure a contract. The company will invest an amount of 3 million rand in DR in the Northern Cape in a youth precinct that will be a youth-driven infrastructure development project offering a range of services, such as a youth shelter for homeless children, a youth education center, a youth recreational park, a youth enterprise development facility, as well as a social club for youth volunteers. To develop this youth precinct, young entrepreneurs in the area of the construction sector and other related services will be invited through an open process to participate. In the same province, Transnet is investing in the DR Logistics Material Supply Hub related to the Manganese Expansion Project, which is projected at the cost of 2.4 billion rand, whose purpose will be to house manufacturers of materials to be supplied to Transnet for the upgrading and maintenance of the railway infrastructure. We believe that there are opportunities for emerging miners in the Sishen-Saldanha ore line. In the short term, a facility has been created to assist emerging miners to access the line to export their products or commodities in partnership with Kumba and Asmang. Transnet is working at developing a sustainable intervention that will result in the emerging miners consolidation terminal that will be after completing the feasibility study. In addition, Transnet is driving a comprehensive skills development program. Over the next 7 years, the company will spend 7.7 billion rand on training, dedicating 4.7 billion rand of this amount to bursaries and grants. 2,000 apprentices will be in training at all times. Transnet has secured an amount of 175 million rand from the Department of Higher Education and Training to train an additional 1,000 learners who will be recruited across provinces over the current financial year. This will increase artisan learners at Transnet training facilities to 3,000. The Departments of Public Enterprises and Higher Education and Training are consolidating their partnership to explore a range of areas to support FET colleges and are engaging the universities to align their training programs with the needs of the state-owned companies so that we do not have to import technical skills. Ladies and gentlemen, TNL has a focused human capital investment strategy in specialized civil aviation authority certified courses through its academy. The academy provided 827 courses last year, and TNL admits 300 apprentices a year. TNL also intends to complete a 100 bursary recipients 3-year cycle who are studying towards technical qualifications. To date, all the bursars who complete their studies are employed within the TNL group. TNL also takes 20 engineering graduates annually to a structured one-year internship program. By design, TNL procures niche engineering products and capabilities with minimal procurement budget. In the past financial year, 72 enterprises benefited from TNL's Enterprise Development Program. Emerging component manufacturers get technical training at the TNL Academy and use specific TNL facilities and equipment as part of their learning and development processes. Furthermore, our forestry company, the South African Forestry Company Limited, SAFCOL, is currently running 5 learnership programs with a total of 176 learners in different forestry-related disciplines, from processing to furniture manufacturing. The industrial development strategy for the forestry industry has been identified as a critical sector due to its intensive labor opportunities it creates, as well as the opportunities it further creates for the revival of rural communities through furniture production. The training on furniture manufacturing includes carpentry and upholstery for 78 unemployed young people, providing them with both skills and enterprise development. SAFCOL business strategy is based on building strong relations with surrounding communities and uses their financial contribution in a sustainable way. To date, they have initiated 133 community projects which focus at building computer centers, supporting maths and science programs, refurbishing classrooms, multipurpose centers, and has even built 7 domestic violence victim centers for women and youth. In the current financial year, the company has employed 80 more people, mostly youth, in job creation projects. A month ago, I launched the cadet pilot program for both SAA and the South African Express, aimed at radically transforming the sector and ensuring that the aviation sector is accessible to individuals from previously disadvantaged backgrounds. The transformation of the air transport sector is a non-negotiable and critical imperative for South Africa. As part of the transformation strategy, SAA will soon open an SAA flying school through its flight academy with its own curriculum aimed at developing more cadets within a minimal time without compromising safety. The SAA Flight Academy will be a center of excellence and will focus its training on new pilots for South Africa and Africa. Our commitment is to ensure that we make a developmental impact in the African countries in which we have a footprint through SAA by building sustainable partnerships. It is estimated that the cost per candidate will be at 1 to 2 million rand for the total of 3.5 years of training. This investment highlights SAA's commitment to the development of quality pilots and the transformation of the industry as a national carrier and as a state-owned company. Ladies and gentlemen, the integration of rural communities into the mainstream economy is both a moral imperative and strategic objective for our developmental state. Our big state-owned companies' construction projects located in rural areas, as well as the ongoing operations from these facilities, provide a powerful platform to create economic opportunities for rural communities and to revive the rural economies. Massive additional opportunities will be created through the strategic infrastructure implementation process. Eskom and Transnet have developed a procurement methodology called local to site, where in certain areas, lead suppliers need to involve local enterprises and in other instances, The state-owned companies contract directly with a local enterprise. However, a key lesson in this process is for the economic development impact of state-owned companies' projects and operations to be optimized. It is vital, therefore, to organize and capacitate the local community, and particularly unemployed young people living in rural areas, to respond coherently to the opportunities presented by these projects. A further opportunity will avail itself as our industrialization program gets rolled out, as we continue during the course of the year to pursue collaboration between our different state-owned companies to pursue industrial capabilities. This will happen in the collaboration we are pursuing between DINEL, SAA and SA Express to develop an aviation industry and aerostructures industry. It will happen in the collaboration we are pursuing between SAFCOL and ESCOM to develop a biofuels industry. It will happen in the collaborations we are pursuing between Broadband Infraco, DINEL and Transnet, as well as ESCOM, to ensure that we optimize on their resources to roll out our broadband infrastructure. Only in this way can we make the President's injunction a reality, that we make a decisive shift towards meaningful economic transformation. We are aware, finally, that the call for set-asides for youth and women in the state-owned companies might create anxiety and a little bit of fiction amongst some. Yet we cannot compromise on the moral imperative to include in the economy important sectors such as women and youth, and ensure they also benefit from shared growth. There is recognition between my department and National Treasury that we do need a different regulatory regime for the strategic acquisition of state-owned companies and procurement projects that are intended to transform the economy through enterprise development and business opportunities. We have established a team to develop a state-owned companies procurement framework, which will take into account the peculiar nature of the procurement of state-owned companies and how it should impact into industrialization and economic transformation. I want to greet and salute all the learners from our different state-owned companies who are present here today. You continue to be the flag bearers of our portfolio. We salute you and wish you the best. Thank you.